Hey, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on the location where you're tuning in from. And thank you for joining us today for the exciting webinar live stream about process mining, turning process mining insights into actionable automations. We will just make sure that all the logistics are working, and then we are good to go. So please confirm, my dear colleagues, maybe Pekka or somebody, that the sound is okay, the picture is okay. So then we are ready to hit the road with the content today. Once we get that confirmation, we are good to go. Still waiting. All good. Great. So first of all, my name is Tommi Holmgren. I'm tuning in from Helsinki, Finland. It is dark, it is snowy, and it is cold. But the content is warm. So we are going to be having an amazing day, or about an hour, not the full day, exploring the world of process mining and automation, and especially where they meet today. Let's start by bringing in my co-host. I'm going to click a button in my controller here to add Daniel on stage. Welcome, Daniel. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Good afternoon from Dallas, Texas, where it's not cold and snowy. It's bright, sunny, and pretty warm, actually.
And it's the morning.
It is the morning.
I'm kind of jealous of the weather, at least. But the good thing is that I got to be in Singapore next week, so I get some sun at least, or warmth, and
there
maybe
you go.
rain.
Exciting.
Thank you for joining, Daniel. And let's start. I was looking at the participants. There's quite a bit of people I know from the Robocorp world who's joining in today to listen. I don't know if they are familiar with Mindzie, so would you please start with a really brief introduction of yourself and Mindzie as a company? That would be a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Daniel Hughes. I have a long background in process automation and intelligent automation, starting with document automation back in the 1900s when we were trying to figure out how to turn paper into digital assets. And then since 2019, I've been focused on process mining technology and helping the largest companies in North America understand the inefficiencies in their business processes. Mindzie is a software company based in North Texas here, focused on process mining, a global organization with customers everywhere around the world that help companies find, fix, and understand inefficiencies in business processes based on data in back-end systems.
I really love the topic. I must admit that once process mining started to kind of show up in the enterprise world, I was working through the first Udemy courses hosted by that professor from the
Dr.
Netherlands.
Will.
Dr. Will, exactly. I'm super, I've always been curious of this kind of the field of improving the processes, and I don't know, I've always ended up working what some people call boring areas, but I find them interesting and curious of B2B and enterprise automation. So it's really interesting topic, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys are working on and how we are working together.
Excellent.
Maybe still about Mindzie as a company. Can you share some of the what has been the highlights for you guys in the past months or this year? What have you achieved? What are you really proud of? What you guys have done?
Yeah, in the last year, we've expanded globally. So we now have partners in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia, in South America, which has been really huge. We've made some huge progress around the product itself. We were the first process mining company to integrate generative AI right inside the tool, so that you can now simply ask questions and get insights on your data. So we've been growing really, really quickly. And it's been a really exciting year and a half or so.
That sounds really great. I think we're going to talk about the generative AI and process mining a little bit later more. I'm really curious to hear what are those features that you've been building in the product, and how does it look to the end users. To all of the viewers who have joined today, please ask questions. Leave comments, whether you're in LinkedIn, somebody's following in YouTube. Some of you are joining through StreamYard. Whichever channel you are using, just leave a comment. We will try to take all of the possible questions that we see here in the chat, and answer your questions and comments as much as we can. The logistics and kind of the agenda for today, we're going to have a couple of slides that we basically give us a structure of the discussion here today. We're talking about process mining, its importance. Daniel starts that part. We're going to talk a little bit about the Gen AI, of course. Well, how does that integrate or change the process mining field? Then we are going to touch the automation side, like what we at Robocorp are doing in terms of Python-based automations. Then the topic of from insights to action. So what happens when process insights turn into action? So that's one of the key, I think, areas that we want to touch today, using some real world examples, and then take any additional questions in the end, closing words, and then we are good to go, whether towards our day or towards our evening, depends where you are. So with that, I'm going to pull the slides and let Daniel start with a few of the introduction slides about process mining, and I'm going to be asking tough questions as we proceed. And viewers, please help me ask all the interesting things. Daniel, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. We're going to talk a lot about process efficiency or inefficiency today, and process or inefficiencies are a huge drain on company resources. IDC had a study recently that showed that companies lose between 20 and 30% of their revenue each year due to inefficiencies. And those inefficiencies show up in a lot of different areas. There are studies that show that half of companies spend up to $25 to manually process an invoice. Studies show that 64% of sales reps working hours are spent on non-revenue generating activities. 30% of IT specialist time spent on really basic low-level stuff. 72% of employees think that inefficient processes impact their jobs, and half of those estimate that they could save 6 or more hours a week if repetitive aspects were automated. So across all aspects of companies, inefficiencies really are a headwind for the business.
Yeah. 6 to 7 hours, that's almost a day.
That's almost a day a week.
That's what they're talking about, the four working day week. So maybe that's the,
Exactly. But so the main thing is to be able to even start to fix all of that, you need to understand where those inefficiencies are in the business. And that's where process mining comes in. It gives you an X-ray into your business that shows what's actually happening behind the scenes. So process mining is an analytical method that uses data to exactly reverse engineer your business processes. So as your employees are executing the business process, there are audit trails that are generated in back-end systems that show what's happened. So think systems like ERPs, SAP or Oracle or Dynamics or NetSuite, CRMs like Salesforce or service ticket systems like ServiceNow, all log data on every activity that happens. And process mining uses this log data to analyze business processes, capture all the activities that happen, and capture the time between those activities to give you really a digital twin of that business process. Common use cases, mostly are back office, things like procure to pay that stream across SAP, Oracle, Coupa, Ariba, systems like that.
Mhm.
um, Quote to cash processes that might start in a CRM, like Salesforce, and then move into an ERP like Dynamics or NetSuite for order fulfillment and billing. Is another example, and service tickets, whether
Mhm.
that's IT back office or new account setup or customer support that live in systems like ServiceNow or Salesforce, for instance, are all good examples.
Yeah. I think we have a first question, so I think we can just take them while we go, so to stay kind of relevant here. Um, are there any specific process mining tools that you consider most compatible integrated with Robocorp, so it's relatively easy to develop automation for? Well, we're going to go back to the Robocorp related topics a bit later on, and the integration and the work that we do together with mindzie. Um, but there's no, I wouldn't say that there's a specific tool that has an full-on integration, especially when it comes to kind of mapping out the processes. We can touch this topic a little bit later. I'm going to leave you a comment with the star and try to remember to come back to this when we get a bit further in the agenda today. There's an interesting question from Oleksiy asking about mindzie, going straight to the deep end, so comparing with some of the other products in the market. So maybe I think that's a great question. Like what are some of the unique advantages or benefits of your product compared to the others?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Mhm.
very familiar with Solonis and Signavio, actually. And there's a few reasons that companies choose mindzie over those two. One is the ease of use and ease of setup of mindzie. You can simply plug into systems and get insights within minutes, and then interrogate those insights with the generative AI. And
Mm.
as part of all of that, we provided software as a service and actually as a service. So we help you do the setup and implementation and building out of the investigation. So ease of use is one. Cost is another. So we're
Mm.
significantly less expensive than those two tools. So while Signavio or Solonis may be a great fit for really large organizations, maybe there's some mid-size companies that can't justify that cost. And then third, we actually have an on-premise application so that companies that are concerned about moving their data into the cloud or into
Mm.
those two companies' cloud can deploy it either inside their firewall or on their private cloud. So
That-
those are three reasons that people
yeah.
choose mindzie.
That's a great point on deployment models, and I was about to ask about that. Like what we encounter with Robocorp a lot is that obviously, like some of the enterprises, especially in regulated industries, will not be sending their data over in the cloud. So you do need that on-prem version of your product.
Yep.
Um, One more question from my side related to process mining. So what are the typical buyer personas? Like who is typically buying, subscribing to product process mining products? So who do you sell to mostly?
Yeah, there's a number of buyer personas. We'll touch on the use cases for process mining here in a little bit. But
Mhm.
basically, we have process discovery as a use case,
Yeah.
um, and then process monitoring, let's call it, as another use case. So in
Hmm.
process discovery, the buyers are going to be the operational excellence team,
Hmm.
people that go throughout the organization and try to map and understand what's going on in the process.
Hmm.
Once that's done, most companies want to transfer or transition to a process monitoring
Hmm.
project where they get real-time updates from the data
Hmm.
and can use process mining as a dashboard into what's going on in the business process. Those
Correct.
buyers are going to be people actually in the business. You're going to have your
Mhm.
VP of accounts payable, your CFO, um, collections team, your AR team that
Mhm.
uses that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So two different groups, and
Mhm.
all of those, no matter where we start, we need to get some technical resource
Mhm.
that understands the data and the customization that they've done to the backend system.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Related to that, oh yeah, we have a great start. We have so many questions coming in. This is
So many
makes our
questions.
life so easy. We have a question from Michal. Michal, I hope I pronounced the name correct. But do you have any out of the box integrations with target systems as well as business process templates with predefined KPIs, dashboards for example, purchase to pay, order to cash processes?
Yep, absolutely. We have data packages for a number of systems, all the major ERPs and all the major finance back office
Mhm.
processes for those, as well as some production planning, some IT service management, service tickets, things like that. So a number that we'd be happy to get you the specifics on.
Cool. And we also have a question from Amit. I'm just going to tackle these like as we go. Um, Amit is asking about if you include features for process simulation or the ability to analyze the potential impact on business metrics if certain steps are replaced with automation.
Yeah, so we generate all the data to
Mhm.
be able to do that and then
Mhm.
usually pass it to the modeling tool that the
Mhm.
customer already uses or the automation tool that the
Mhm.
customer uses to do that analysis. So we have integrations with most of the major modeling systems where they can do all their process simulations.
Cool. Great. Um, Going back to slides, are we on this slide or should I jump
Yeah,
one forward?
no, let's stick on that one. So let's
Let's
talk about four big reasons that companies use process mining. One is to improve process performance. Two is process conformance or
Mhm.
compliance, a lot of people call it.
Yeah.
Um, Three, identifying automation opportunities, and four, digital twins. So coming back to performance, process mining uses the data to give you real-time views into your bottlenecks, into
Mhm.
your process loops, into the rework and the delays in your business processes. So in order to cache, process mining might show you the root causes behind missing your on-time delivery KPIs,
Mhm.
right? Is the root cause pricing approval changes? Is the root cause of that credit holds? What is the process behind not being able to get invoices out to your customers on time? Or what's the root cause of delayed collections? Is it invoice errors? Is it duplicate payment terms inside of the system? And gives you a basically an x-ray into the business process and shows you the why behind
Mhm.
those KPIs. And then for conformance, it identifies all of the deviations from whatever the ideal process. And I don't really like ideal process. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
necessarily ideal process that you can define for anything, really. There's lots of acceptable deviations, but what are the deviations that are not acceptable? Can we identify those really quickly?
Mhm.
And procure to pay, it'd probably be things like split POs.
Mhm.
And actually, funny, I had one of our customers actually split their PO to us to get around some of their approval processes. So they wanted to buy a couple of licenses. Their approval level was just above one license, so they split it into two orders and sent it to us. That's the kind of thing that process mining can help you identify. Maverick buying, so ordering before you get the or
Mhm.
buying before you get the approvals,
Mhm.
identifying duplicate invoices as they
Correct.
come
Yeah.
in so that you don't pay them twice. You know,
Mhm.
a study from I think it was IOFM showed that 2% of invoices are duplicates and they're almost all paid. So 2% of your expenses could be
Yeah.
duplicates.
Yep. And I I used to work not with Robocorp, but previously I used to work with one large enterprise, has a lot of operations in developing countries, and the amount of fraudulent invoices that just came out from those locations, it's just mind blowing. It just opened my eyes that, we're living in a pretty sheltered world here in,
Exactly. And then,
at least here in Finland.
yeah, and then last is identifying segregation of duties errors. Because we
Mm,
identify all the steps in the process
mm,
in real time, and we identify who took those
mm,
actions, we
mm,
can find and flag
mm,
segregation of duties errors where, for instance, somebody approved an invoice and paid it to try to
mm.
eliminate some of that fraud.
I've also made, although the company was smaller, but I made that mistake myself. I paid an invoice during the summer holidays, and it was not correct invoice, and you know, so
Then you have to
clearly
figure
thinking.
out, how do you get the money back? How do you
Yeah,
get credit
exactly.
for it? And
Yeah,
it ends up taking a lot of work that's really inefficient, where you
yeah,
could have just stopped that
yeah,
conformance issue at the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah. After one mistake, you really learn to check them properly.
If you get your hand slapped hard enough.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's jump into the next slide. There's plenty of questions. I'm collecting few of them and gonna bring them up in a second. But let's keep Daniel's flow going for a bit more.
Sure. So process
Mm,
mining helps in two areas around operational
mm,
efficiency. One is identifying is improving process efficiency, identifying what's really going on in the back end, what
mm,
really happens in your process, where are the delays, where are the bottlenecks, what are potential automation opportunities, and
mm,
allows you to go and take those actions. And
mm,
then for automation, once you've identified the automation opportunities, it actually can monitor those automations to show you how that impacts the rest of the process.
mm,
Does automating the most common step or the best step in the process actually improve overall cycle time, or does it
mm,
just simply push that bottleneck to the next step in the process, where you
mm.
still need to add more resources to that step to help to improve overall cycle time?
Yeah.
So not just figure out where the automations could be, but how does that actually impact the
Mm.
process?
And what's looking from the automation platform perspective? It's obviously interesting to know that what's your viewpoint on um, like when you identify automation opportunities with process mining, how far can you push like the description of the automation COEs? They're delivering BDDs to describe their process that they want to automate. When
Yep.
do you foresee that there will be a stronger link that actually gets, like, there's a lot of demos. You can demo a creation of something scaffolding on the automation side, but I've yet to see actually functioning pipe from identifying the automation opportunity to actually having a really solid kind of a pipe to help in automating it. So what's your viewpoint? What's the state of the art there in your opinion?
Um, so my viewpoint is that is best left to the automation companies and not
Mm,
necessarily to the process intelligence companies.
mm,
Process mining can identify where the bottlenecks are, can
mm,
pass that opportunity over to the
mm,
automation to Robocorp, for instance.
mm,
And then you have a number of options. You can actually record what the end users are doing on their desktop,
mm,
um, or you could use the automation tool to record and create the bot. Our opinion, my personal opinion, is all of that's best left to the
mm.
automation tool and not to the process intelligence tool.
All right, gonna jump into the next one.
Yeah, we've covered a little bit of this,
Yeah.
but basically, there's the life cycle of a process mining starts or has three phases. One is process
Mm,
discovery,
mm,
is just to go start with a historical perspective of your processes, use the data to of the last 12 months to identify exactly what's going on, to build your process map, to calculate
mm,
your cycle time, identify all of those deviations. I actually have a customer in the insurance business
Mm,
here in North America that has
mm,
8,000 business processes across dozens and dozens of systems that they
mm.
don't have mapped today.
Wow.
So they just deploy process mining into all of those and get process maps over what's happened over the last 12 months. And that's a huge win for them
Mm,
because the alternative is to send a consultant to watch what happens in the process, put it on
mm,
either a whiteboard or a Visio, and use
mhm.
that as their process documentation. So
That's amazing.
almost all customers start with some type of process discovery.
Hmm.
From there, they go and analyze the process, and this is where we've done a lot of work with generative AI is to investigate what are the root causes of bottlenecks, loops, rework,
Mm,
or execution gaps around things like late deliveries. What
mm,
causes one region or one facility to execute differently than another, and maybe
mm,
why does one facility have higher productivity than another? And our
mm,
generative AI allows you to simply ask those questions of the data. So, what is my process bottlenecks? And the Gen AI converts that into analysis, into
mm,
visuals, into dashboards that gives you the insights that you want to see. So that's really made it a lot easier to take process mining from the PhDs that Dr.
mm.
Will that we talked
Dr.
about trains up, and get that power into the hands of business analysts, people that
Mm.
want to answer and ask those questions.
So if I like, I try to rephrase it so to check if I understood what you're doing, but essentially you give a natural language based, like a chat, the text in, like, let's say text interface in your product that allows process owner or analyst to ask questions and basically discover those analysis or insights out of your platform.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so. Do you see any other areas? I saw there was a question related to generative AI. While I'll look at it, but what other advancements did the massive leap in generative AI happening right now? What do you foresee coming up next in process mining and process insights enabled by Gen
Yeah,
AI?
it's two other areas that Gen AI is going to really take over. One, there's a lot of data prep that goes on with process mining on the front end, getting the data out
Hmm.
of the system, turning it into a log. So Gen AI is starting to be able to do a lot of that. So you can
Yeah.
simply tell it to create an audit log from your SAP system. It'll go get
Mm,
the data from 100 plus tables, join them all together, and build you an audit log. Not ready today, but I think that is coming. And then
yeah.
second, there's a lot of data cleansing and cleanup and calculations that need to be done from the raw data to the insights. So
Mm,
we're integrating Gen AI into our log enrichments so that you can simply tell it to create the calculations that you would need, let's say for procure to pay,
hmm.
and it can and generate all of the calculations, do all the data cleansing and things like that. So two other areas that I think it's really going to help. And then the holy grail that it will come. I don't know how fast it will, is to actually make suggestions on
Mm,
how you should change the process. So we found these
mm,
bottlenecks. You should make these changes. You should change your staffing model by this amount. You should change your approval levels by this amount
mm,
to be able to streamline your process and still have the control that you need for internal auditing
mm.
purposes.
That sounds really great. Found the question from Robert. Let's check if we answered it already. Use generative AI in process mining. Share for what business processes, specific use cases you integrate. Well, so we talked about utilizing generative AI within Mindsy platform, and then some of the forward-looking ideas. Anything you want to add to this
Yep.
question?
No, our Gen AI works with all business processes and
Mm,
all use cases, and it's important to
mm,
know that we do not expose customer data to the large language model. So
mm,
we've developed a way not to do that and still be able to
mm.
provide the insights.
And would
Um,
you are you using large language models that are, let's say, OpenAI or Azure OpenAI, or are you hosting your own open source large language models? This is just out of my pure curiosity.
yeah, so we have the ability to do both. We're
Yes.
currently using the open source language models.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Mm, moving on.
So
I think
So the next
in the
one,
next.
let me get that last one. So after
Oh,
analyze,
sorry. Yeah. Yes.
yeah, I think it's important. And
Mm,
it'll transition to what you want to talk about next. So once you
mm,
analyze, you know where the bottlenecks are, you know where the root causes are. You can go and take action on those. You can make changes to
mm,
your business process. But
mm,
the final transition is to actually use process mining to optimize and monitor your business process. So to connect into those systems in real time, do real time data extraction, real time connections, and have a dashboard that the business users can use to manage their processes. So
mm,
provide a list of potential duplicate invoices that people can
mm,
work on a daily basis, or know immediately when process issues occur, or even identify areas or actions that should be taken in the data that you can
mm,
send for automation. So you might be able to identify an order that's placed on hold that won't be
mm,
able to meet based on all the steps that it still has to go through, won't be able to be delivered on time, and
mm,
automatically trigger an action to either go release it, notify
mm.
somebody, or go review it.
Yeah.
And that real time analysis and being able to trigger that action is what we can send to Robocorp
Mm.
for you to automate whatever needs to be done.
Yeah. So in the Robocorp language, it's basically identifying, well, first of all, you do have those automations built on an automation platform like ours, but you basically choose which work items, like what's the inputs to the automations that you start, what kind of inputs you give. This invoice needs to be unblocked, or this is a duplicate invoice, and whatnot. So that's and I think that's a great use case. One thing that I've always wanted to ask, and I've been wondering, and it's kind of a fundamental to this the whole thing, is why business owners or process owners want need a new tool. Like, consider they have an ERP system that where they handle their invoices and whatnot. Why do they need another tool? Why are they going to process insights and mining tools to do those actions or identify those duplicate invoices not in their SAP or whatnot? What's the
Yeah, so
driving factor?
The ERP systems do a really good job of KPIs. So they can tell
Mm,
you what your average days outstanding are. They can tell you how many
mm,
outstanding invoices they have, and it's really a system to help you manage the business
mm,
or execute the business. What's missing is what does an end-to-end process look like, and what are the steps, all the steps that happen in a visual
mm,
um, that you can consume. I like to tell people that any process that you can wrap your head around just
mm,
by visualizing what happens, and
mm.
you pretty much understand all of the transactions that have gone through it, probably not a good fit for process mining. But if you think if you think about a really large manufacturing organization and all of the products that they have to buy, components that they have to buy to build their product. It's so vast that nobody can really wrap their head around exactly what's going on. And you need a tool to get into the multiple systems that manage that process and show you what's really going on. And then
Yeah.
also the root causes of that. So using statistical algorithms to identify what are the commonalities in all the issues that happen in the process. That's where process mining really comes in.
That sounds great. Maybe jumping topics and talking a little bit about automation. I know there's some people joining today who don't know things about the Robocorp, so just few words on our approach to automation, and then we tie together like things where process mining, process intelligence meet with automation, and answer some of the questions that I can see already there, like really interesting topics coming in. But Robocorp's automation platform is a bit different than the let's say the old school or legacy automation platforms or RPA platforms that there are in the market. Our approach is, first of all, that automation is a software development sport. Like in order to get really high quality automations that run reliably, you reach the best results by software developing, coding those automations instead of using low-code tools. So that's our kind of philosophy background in the back. Our platform is Python based, so there's an example of a small task that performs things like opening Excel and going to browser and whatnot. So it's lines of code utilizing the entire ecosystem of Python, the open source ecosystem of Python, and then having a extremely powerful orchestration layer in cloud and all the capabilities of running the workers on-prem. Like Daniel said about the on-prem capabilities of mindzie. Similarly, Robocorp workers can run in any environment. They can be on-demand containers, they can be on-demand VDIs, or they can be Windows VMs over the RDP sessions and whatnot. And our orchestration layer has really powerful scalability and parallel processing capabilities, meaning that you can run like processes that require a lot of power, like a processing power can be executed in a super short time. And that's not punished with the commercial model. So the constraint of really high volume processes with the legacy RPA platforms is typically the licensing model, whereas we come with the consumption-based licensing, which means that you're not punished by running things in parallel. You can do as much as you want. It's just about the run minutes that the platform consumes, or your processes consume. So Python-based building blocks, powerful cloud orchestration running wherever you need. By the way, works on Mac and Linux as well, so we're not restricted on Windows like some of the other tools in the market. From our perspective, generative AI has a couple of meanings and a couple of kind of pathways forward. One is obviously what can a process do? Like within a process, you can utilize generative AI. We were just working with a customer on their payment collections, so order to cash, payment collections, optimizing the work of 150 people whose only job is to go and make sure that the invoices are paid on time or as soon as possible, and updating the data into their accounts receivable software. And then their generative AI can be reading unstructured data, converting it into structured data that can be inputted in various systems like AR software. But then the other part of generative AI is obviously creating those automations faster and more efficient. So we've launched a tool called Remark, which is free and open for all our users, which basically helps you create those code-based automations at the maximum ease using generative AI. So that's kind of two tracks that we are following. And of course, then one of the critical parts of the platform is the connectivity. There's connectivity towards kind of a source of triggers. Now, talking with mindzie, obviously mindzie is one of the triggers. When some work needs to be done, somebody needs to trigger it. It, of course, can be scheduled as well, but the typical trigger is coming from some other platform over the APIs. Then the other side of the connectors is towards the systems that you can automate, and you can basically go anywhere. Somebody said that there's a Python library for every single molecule in the world. So you can basically have whichever Python package you can find and utilize it with our platform at ease. And like there's cases with all of the common platforms like SAP and Salesforce and whatnot. That's Robocorp in a super nutshell. I'm not going to spend more time on that unless I see any questions, because there's so many interesting questions related to process mining. So maybe we just go forward. Daniel, any questions from your side?
No, maybe it makes sense now to talk about how we get from process mining to actions inside of Robocorp, how we trigger
Correct.
those.
Let's go there.
Yeah, so inside of mindzie, once we have process mining and we're optimizing and monitoring business processes, we can trigger actions, what we call as our automated actions, based on a number of different criteria. One could be simply time-based, one could be a manual trigger from a person saying, I want to take this action, or we could automate those actions. So we could identify, for instance, a blocked sales order and automatically trigger an action to either review it or automatically unblock it. So since we don't actually unblock it, we would send the trigger to Robocorp, or mindzie Studio would send the trigger to Robocorp for Robocorp to run the Python automations. So the whole thing could be totally automated without anybody needing to sit in the middle of it if we wanted to.
Yeah. So essentially, an enterprise customer or any customer using like both of our platforms, you build skills or capabilities or those automation workflows to Robocorp. You write them in Python, assisted by the generative AI. You deploy them in the control room. Everything is exposed through the APIs of our control room or the orchestration layer. All of those automations are you can then trigger using the insights and automated actions, or the automated actions engine within mindzie is capable of triggering those actions, give the necessary input data, and let the actions run.
Exactly right. Another example would be customer support tickets. If we find that after a certain number of days, let's say after 7 days, the customer doesn't respond, they typically never respond, and we want to close that ticket, we could automatically identify transactions or tickets that had been open X amount of time or had been even past a specific step, escalated, and then automatically trigger to Robocorp to go and automate the closure of those. So nobody has to go and clean up old tickets anymore.
That would be great.
Complete waste of time, right? No value in going back and closing tickets that are non-responsive.
Yeah. And if, let's say, your ticketing system would be ServiceNow, you can actually find a ServiceNow connector from the Robocorp libraries. There's a portal example showing how to operate ServiceNow using Robocorp automation. So the kind of building blocks are actually there. You can just go and build really quickly. And Daniel, this is when you say actions and the automated actions engine, this is available today, right? So it's when somebody logs into your platform, it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is available today. We actually have actions to trigger, pre-built actions to trigger Robocorp automations. So that's all pre-built today.
That's great. I really like it. Let's take a question here. There was I think just double checking that we've actually answered the questions that we get. It was earlier already related to, well, I need to find it. I'll find it while you're talking about the next with the next slide. So go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I think we've talked about most of this already. Seamlessly get insights, whatever insight that is, trigger the automated actions that triggers automations from Robocorp.
Yeah. And we have a real world example to walk through, and that's, I
Yeah.
think, interesting to everybody.
Yeah. So real world application is in the order to cash process. We talked a little bit about this before, but we've, one thing that we find a lot is that we have unnecessary credit holds for customers. So let's say we find that customer A
Mhm.
has a credit limit of, $9,500. But every order they make, because of your price increases, now it's $10,000. And they do this every week. They buy $10,000 and they get put on credit hold because you've approved them for 9,500. That leads to a lot of work, a lot of inefficiencies. Somebody has to release the credit hold, somebody has to review the credit hold. And it's totally unnecessary because they pay their bill every month. So what we do is process mining identifies that, hey, 10% of your credit holds are for this one customer and they're within $500, and every order that they get gets put on credit hold. We should probably raise their credit limit.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
until we do that, maybe we don't want to do that. Um, we can take action on that and automatically approve those or release those credit holds. So Mindzie, through process mining, identifies this happens all the time. We identify that it happened again, and we can trigger an action that says this customer A was put on credit hold. The order was only $10,000, which is $500 over their credit limit. Let's
Mhm.
automatically release that. So we trigger a Robocorp automation that goes into SAP and releases the credit hold immediately. And now you can ship the product and bill the customer. Customers happy because they get their product on time. The company's happy because they can bill and collect on time faster. And you've saved minutes of work for at least one person to go and review and release that credit hold. So improve efficiency in the business, make customers happy, and make the CFO happy because you're improving working capital by billing and collecting faster.
Yeah, and I think that's what I find fascinating here is that like the process insights is one trigger, and with Robocorp's platform you can reuse the same components you build for automating different types of workflows within the enterprise. So if you have a piece of automation somewhere else that touches your SAP in the same areas, most of them need to log into SAP in somehow. You basically reuse those components on Robocorp platform, build your kind of a step-by-step workflow. You can use browser automation if that's the easiest way to go through the user interface. Don't need to utilize the APIs only. You can use the Java Access Bridge to work with some of the older thick clients, and like there's basically all of those options available to automate the actions against pretty much any system available in the market.
Yep, absolutely. And I actually think this last question is interesting. It gives us a different
Yes.
perspective.
Do you mean this one?
So yes, that one. So segregation of duties compliance is a big use case for process mining.
Mm.
And with process mining, we can identify virtually in real time every every compliance issue for a segregation of duties policy. With our automated actions engine, we can immediately, once we detect that, notify compliance that this happened. But I think more interesting than that is if it's a proven pay, there's not a lot we can do. Maybe if the check run hasn't done yet. But let's say the check run hasn't done. We found a segregation of duties error where the same person approved an invoice and submitted it for payment.
Mm.
We can actually notify compliance and trigger an automation in Robocorp to block that payment in the ERP system. So Robocorp could immediately take action and say, we have a segregation of duties error. Let's go into SAP and put that payment on hold, so that the check doesn't actually get cut. So we can take it one step further than this question asked with Robocorp, with the combination of mindzie and Robocorp.
Yeah, and I think one of the key, like, I wouldn't say that it's obviously not the only selling point, but one of the key things that especially the large regulated customers that we have, regulated industry customers we have, they really like in our platform is the full audit trail of the automation. So it's not just process insights, but it's also then full like audit trail, audit log of each of the actions that the automation is taking within your ERP solutions or whatnot. What was the input that came from somewhere else, in this case from mindzie? What was the input work item? What exactly happened? And it's on a row level of the automation that can be traced, that this trigger led into this consequence in your SAP. And that's that audit trail is really, really powerful feature also on our platform.
Definitely.
Yeah. Let's hide this one. Anything else from the use case? I think I was talking with some people at mindzie earlier. We were looking at the demos. We don't have a demo today. I think we are absolutely happy to show demos in one-on-one meetings afterwards and show the shared product. Today we focused on a few slides and a quick talk about around the topic. But at least from my perspective, the kind of the combination of insights, identifying that something needs to happen, and then just tying that directly into action using the workflows, that just like makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Let's pick a few questions. I don't think we have any more content slides here, but let's pick a few of the questions that we did not address yet. And I think these are, Daniel, most of them for you, and this is like your moment to sell, because there's a couple of questions that that clearly show some interest towards your platform, which is amazing. So let's take this one. You mentioned in the beginning that Celonis or Signavio are good for big companies, but I think somebody from big company wants to know more about the topic. Are you focusing on like a small, medium SMB, or what's behind this?
Yeah, absolutely. So mindzie does not focus just on small and medium. We have Fortune 500 companies. We have insurance, financial services, manufacturing that are all, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 in North America. We also do go down to companies that are, say, $1 billion in revenue, or even $500 million in revenue. We have some even smaller than that. And the reason I say that Celonis and Signavio are for large companies is Celonis actually has a white paper that I really love that says, in order to get the most out of their tool, you need to build a COE, and your COE needs to have 4 to 10 people in it. So that's really good for large companies to build a COE of 4 to 10 people, but even mid-sized companies struggle to do that a lot of times. So, so I think Celonis and Signavio are good for large companies in a lot of cases. mindzie also supports large companies as well, but we also can go down market a little bit more than they do.
While at the competition, let's also tackle the other one related to to other platforms in the market. Integrating process discovery with mindzie, automation with Robocorp. This is from Amit. Hi, Amit. Do we provide a capability similar to Celonis Action Engine feature? As much as I know the Celonis Action Engine feature, I think we are like definitely delivering similar capabilities. I've only seen it. I haven't like seen everything within the Celonis platform. I can't claim that I would be a professional on that platform, but what I've seen now with mindzie is at least minimum equivalent.
Yeah, I would say my bet. I don't My best guess is Robocorp is significantly superior to the
Mm.
Celonis Action Engine,
Yeah.
but I'm no expert on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. We like to think that we are much more comprehensive automation platform, but let's leave it there.
You would. I would think you would have other closer competitors than Celonis
Yeah.
Action Engine.
Correct. Yeah. But together, so looking at the big picture, Celone is saying that they have process mining and they have the action engine. You can achieve the similar results by using mindzie, specialized on process mining and discovery and insights. Robocorp for automation. Putting them together, you have a capabilities that are superior in my opinion, but that's a biased opinion, of course.
Of course.
Let's take one more that came into LinkedIn and copied here. Pre-integrate, and I think this is kind of good to summarize. Yes, Robocorp is pre-integrated in Mindzie, so you don't need to go and use the raw HTTP calls. I've seen it; it's there. You can basically configure those start processes and get the results back, actions within Mindzie.
Might be a good time to offer them to try it.
Oh yes, let's go that way. We are on the last 3 minutes, so if you have questions, we still have a few minutes to answer anything you might have in your mind. But trying it, Daniel, from your side, what do people need to do to try out, and how does it work?
Yeah, if you'll go to this link, you'll get a form where you can request access to the mindzie tool. We have a number of options, whether it's a desktop edition, if you wanted to install it, or we can get you access to the cloud edition. And with access to the cloud edition, we'll have all of the action engine in there, the generative AI will be in there, and the actions to connect to the Robocorp automations. So fill out the form. We'll review it internally and set you up with the appropriate access.
Great. From our side, you can go to robocorp.com. There's a button on the corner. You can sign up to the Robocorp cloud. It's free for a limited usage. So it's not a free trial. It is free. You can start using Robocorp. Limited amount of run minutes per month, limited amount of processes, but full capabilities. So there's a free version to use. Try out the platform. Also, reminder: all our developer tools are open source and free. So if you've used the RPA platform, so you need to pay for the developer tools, we are not that platform. So all the tools you can get for free. Start building. Nobody charges anything. So go sign up for an account and get going.
And
We
that
are
is a good
perfectly
point.
on time. Go ahead.
One more thing. Good point that we do have a free version, a desktop version that comes with a limited number of cases. So you can use it to go and analyze any of your business processes.
We are absolutely on time. Perfect. Perfectly used 1 hour. Thank you, Daniel, for joining with me. It's been really pleasure chatting about this topic. Thanks for working together with us. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully continues to be the pleasure the same way. And I want to also thank all of the participants. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you soon again. And you are, of course, free to contact me or Daniel to learn more.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Tommy. It's been great.